You're listening to the Docs and More podcast with Lovejeet Dhaliwal. I am super excited to catch up with Akingbade, who's with me now and whose film was screened here at DocFest just a short while ago. First of all, Ayo, congratulations for your screening at Sheffield.
Thank you.
What drew you to your subject, to the activist Dora Bottomay and her influence on Brixton, particularly Angeltown? I
finished a film called Tau XYZ and the response was amazing, and so I wanted to continue this exploration of social housing in London, especially on the lives of Afro-Caribbeans. And so the Evening Standard did an article about Angeltown called The State We Are In, and they really bashed the state. But in the article they had a thumbnail of this woman, black and white photo and a head wrap, and it said Dora Bottomay's legacy is underburied, or what her significance will never really be understood. So I was like, okay, this is who's this lady? Googled her, there's nothing about her online. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to make this once I have time. And so a year and a half later, I made the film.
You've touched here on the housing issue, and one of the main other themes that your film touches on is about gentrification. How detrimental do you feel gentrification is today?
Gentrification to me, I think it's, you know what, like when I studied in Dalston and I was seeing lots of changes and I didn't know what it was. And so when I started to do my research and I found out the word was gentrification, what was happening to my local community was in fact that. I feel like gentrification is very damaging to people who are not from privileged and well-to-do backgrounds, because they don't have the money to move out. A lot of people that have money who are moving into these once deprived areas are not really giving back to the community. I think what they're giving back at most is coffee shops and bougie restaurants, but other than that there's no community outreach. They're not employing people from the community. In many instances they're actually afraid of the local community. They don't want to interact. And I remember I spoke to an artist and he was like, well, the local community doesn't really open to me, so why should I open to them? And the fact is he's moving into a community that has already been kind of established, so why do they have to now open their arms? You have the privilege, you have the money, you can do whatever you want. They in comparison can't. But someone was saying gentrification is going to happen, change happens, but at the pace it's happening, especially in the East End, it's quite shocking. I never thought like in within 5 years how different Kingston High Street is, and hopefully I'm able to capture stories before it runs out.
So you're obviously concerned about the community that's currently there, the fact that this community is being broken up in a way. What do you think can be done about this, or what do you want to be done about this?
In general, I feel like the community is being neglected. Okay, there's a few youth clubs, but there's not actually people trying to help these kids. And even for this new documentary that I'm researching, these are like, there's young people who want to be in a documentary, and I'm like, what's your aspirations? I want to do music. I'm like, wow, you're so talented. But yet, I spoke to one guy and he's like a bin man and he's like 19. I'm like, you want to do music? Why don't you pursue that? Oh, I don't have any connections. And I feel it's everyone's responsibility to try to help people. I think to be selfish and to think about make the borough to have more money and more tourism. I think it's wrong. Like, there's a community there already and they should be acknowledged.
Before we move on to talk about your next film, just staying back on this current film that you have showing here at Sheffield, can you tell me a bit more about this character Dora? What was it that you found what inspired you? Why did you want to? What drew you to her particular character?
Wow, when I did Tower XYZ, the film before Street 66, people were saying I had a voice, a poetic voice, and so I wanted to see what I was describing in Tower, a real person having that same experience. And so when I did discover Dora Butema, I was like, wow, this lady actually existed, and I feel like we had an affinity with helping others, also making sure our community prospered, and so, yeah, I feel like Dora was such an amazing woman, and she was courageous. Everyone's like, she was bold, tenacious, she was great, had a fantastic energy, and she was fiery, and I feel like that we have similar traits, because I am quite fiery and focused, and I have this vision that I wanna like pursue in life and in life in general. But yeah, there wasn't anything about her, and I feel like it's very sad in general in the life of Black British people who have done so much to help this land, this island, this small island, but they're just neglected, and or they're like, oh, there's no hype around concerning them, so let's just leave it on the sidelines. But me personally, I like to shine a light to underdogs. I feel like that's one of my life missions, to shine a light to people who are buried, because I think that's really important, and history is very important.
Now, you've touched it already, what your next project is going to be, but tell me a bit more.
Yes, my next project is called Dare Babylon, and it'll be the final in a trilogy of social housing. And basically, it's about the end of social housing. So I'm shooting it in Bethnal Green, the border between Hackney and Tower Hamlets, in this particular estate. And I've got some contributors, and so we're relating their history to the history of this tower. It's George Lovelace off Hackney Road, and I live really close to it. And the architect who built that block is Lubinkin, Polish immigrant. He died in Brighton, but I think it's really hard me explaining things, because it's all my brain is a jumble. But I think that the film.
Don't worry, all the best filmmakers are. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, but yes, basically it's like the end of social housing, how these tenants and these actors respond to it.
Well, Ayo, thank you very much for your time today, and good luck with everything, with your current project and your next one.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Docs and More podcast with Lovejeet Dhaliwal. If you enjoyed the show, review and subscribe to the series.